Ironically, for a lot of high performers, burnout doesn't show up when things are falling apart. It shows up when life is objectively good. Business, relationships, health, your calendar full of things you once wanted, but something feels heavy, feels off inside, or brittle. Like you're constantly trying to brace for something. Your body is under tension and you don't know why. This episode is for you if you've been wondering why success hasn't brought you the relief you expected, and why slowing down hasn't actually fixed your exhaustion. Welcome to the Wealthy Life Podcast, the space where high performers rebuild the internal operating system behind their success. I'm your host, Deanna. Each week, we explore the nervous system, biology, identity, emotional patterns, and capacity that help you shift out of survival mode and into grounded, coherent, sustainable performance. Let's begin. Most people think burnout comes from doing too much, so some downtime and time management will do the trick. In my work with high performers, I see something else entirely. Burnout happens when the internal system carrying your life no longer has room. It's what I call the internal operating system. Like a hard drive is full. Slowing down your computer and every little task you do takes forever to do, and it slows everything else down too. I'm sure you've experienced that, especially with older computers. So that's why when you're going through burnout, you can have fewer tasks and still be burnt out. You might have tried all the hacks and tricks on social, wherever you get them from, but you're still feeling depleted. It's less about volume. Yes, volume does matter, but it's more about releasing and creating more capacity. Let's get into that capacity creation, specifically emotional load, that inherited pressure from other people, from people that we don't even know. And a lot of the times, we don't even know where they're from. Many high performers are carrying emotional loads and energy that did not start with them long before you were able to make conscious choices, even before birth, believe it or not. The world started to influence you from a subconscious and conscious way. We now know through neuroscience, developmental biology, and epigenetics that the nervous system begins learning about safety, threat, and responsibility in utero. So during pregnancy, when you were in your mother's womb, a developing fetus doesn't just grow organs, is actually receiving information. That includes information about stress, vigilance, how much alertness the world requires from you. And a lot of that is from your mother, chemically, but also from the outside world, the sounds you hear, the movements as well. Prenatal stress research shows that a mother's nervous system state influences fetal development through stress hormones like cortisol, inflammatory markers, autonomic nervous system signaling. And a fetus adapts not to what the parent says, but to what the parent's body is living. The nervous system's primary function is prediction and protection, and it doesn't care about your comfort or success. It asks one question constantly: what do I need to do and who do I need to be to survive in this environment? So before you ever learn to be capable, strong, responsible, be good at your job, your system probably already learned that you needed to stay alert, ready, and be ahead of everybody else to survive. If the adults around you were anxious, overwhelmed, emotionally unstable, or unavailable, where they rely on you to be the strong one in subtle ways, your nervous system adapted again in order for you to survive and continue to be in the care of that adult. You might have learned that being helpful created connection for you, or being low maintenance reduced uncomfortable situations or relationships. Maybe you got yelled at less or beaten up less when you were low maintenance. Maybe being responsible kept the emotional environment around you stable, the adults around you slightly predictable. A doctor I love, her name is Amy Apogee. Her work on the biology of trauma shows that many trauma and stress patterns aren't the results of single events, but they're from developmental adaptations in the nervous system. Body organizes itself around what it had to do repeatedly to maintain connection, safety, or survival. So, in other words, your nervous system didn't choose hyper-responsibility because you're driven. It chose it because at some point it worked. It helps you survive. It helps you receive validation. It helps you gain control. When stress responses don't get to complete, the body builds long-term patterns around vigilance, tension, or it might go into that freeze state I spoke about in the last episode. These patterns live underneath conscious thought. They live in your posture, your breath, your fascia, your skin tone, organ functioning, baseline arousal, and every single corner of your being. Over time, responsibility stops being something you do and it actually becomes something you are. And then we fast forward more into present times. Success enters the picture. And instead of success calming the system, it actually reinforces the pattern. If you're familiar with Joe Dispenza's work, he talks about how the body becomes emotionally conditioned to familiar states. Even high stress states can feel normal or even safe when they're known. So the achievements you wanted for a long time and worked hard for actually brings you more problems and makes you feel heavy rather than making you feel relieved. More people relying on you, more expectations to maintain, more internal pressure not to drop the ball. And the body doesn't distinguish between emotional pressure and physical threat. It only tracks demand versus capacity. So when responsibility becomes your identity, the system never truly turns off or shifts down or downshifts into recovery. You're constantly carrying the weight of your life, maybe even other people's lives. And eventually, even a good life becomes heavy when the system holding it has never been allowed to rest. And this is why burnout so often appears when things are going well, because your nervous system has been carrying layers and layers of inherited stress, developmental adaptations, and even unspoken responsibilities for a very long time. But the beauty of all of this is now you understand burnout is not something that you can't escape, is not a black hole that sucks everything out of you, but rather is a nervous system that's adapted brilliantly, that has helped you survive all the hard times in your life. Now it just needs a little bit more capacity. After that, you can hold more with more ease and with more calm. So shift your focus to rebuilding safety in the body and expand your nervous system capacity. And then you realize that there are so many things you didn't need to carry in your life. Contrary to what most people believe, success doesn't always calm the nervous system. Like I mentioned before, now there's more responsibility, more to protect, maintain, manage, more people relying on you, more expectations, internal and external. So there's actually an increase in strain. And from a nervous system perspective, success can register as heightened vigilance and not safety that you probably thought success will bring you. So if your system learned that love, belonging, validation, control, or stability came from being high functioning, then achievement reinforces the pattern instead of resolving it. So even when things are good, the body will stay tense. And this is why rest probably feels really uncomfortable to you. Might even give you anxiety. And peace and drama-free situations where people feel strangely boring or unsafe. I'm chuckling a little bit because I have a friend who constantly gets himself into very drama-filled relationships. And I once asked him why. Why do you love these crazy women so much? And he told me that if they are drama-free, he feels like they don't love him. It's a nervous system that is so used to chaos and drama. Any normal woman comes across as she's cold or she's neglecting. Isn't that so interesting? From a physiological perspective, a healthy nervous system is not calm all the time. It's adaptable. It can mobilize and then settle because you need it to react to actual danger. For example, run from a car, slam on the brakes before your logical brain can even process what happened on the road. But once a threat and trigger is done, a healthy nervous system also returns to baseline so it can give it all when another trigger or threat comes into the picture. Burnout happens when activation becomes chronic and recovery never fully completes, or never even starts, maybe. So in high performers, this is likely because the system never learned how to feel safe without performing, and they're constantly pushing. So coming back to the piece where high performers try to fix their burnout by changing their schedule, their habits, or their goals, those things can definitely help, but only to a point. Because if your identity underneath all of that still believes, I have to hold everything together, I can't drop the ball, I don't get to fall apart, I'm the one who has to hold everything together. If I set boundaries, this person's going to get mad at me. I'm going to lose a business deal. Then your nervous system will continue to stay in survival mode, no matter how many free hours you create. And that's why you need to rebuild capacity rather than trying to fix the external stuff. It's like beating around the bush, saying everything but getting to the point. You need to rebuild the capacity to rest without guilt. Allow yourself to feel without running away from yourself. Allow your nervous system to return to baseline and start repaying your energy debt. That's how you can have more success without burning yourself to the ground. You don't have to change what you're chasing. Your goals, your ambitions are not the problem. But you do need to learn how to expand the system that's doing all the chasing. If this episode helps you soften or relax a little bit, I'm glad you're here. In the coming episodes, we'll talk about how capacity is built, how nervous systems actually change, and how to create success that doesn't cost you yourself in the process. The goal isn't to do less or accomplish less in your life, but to have it all and have the internal space to actually live it and enjoy it. Thank you so much for being here. If this episode resonated, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who's been carrying too much for too long. And if you're ready to rebuild your internal operating system, join me in the Wealthy Life community or explore my private coaching at deannawrose.com. Until next time, take a breath, trust your body, and stay curious. Let's build your wealthy life.